Welcome to the Strong Coach Podcast. I'm Mike Bledsoe. I'm here with Danny Rios and Ben Walker. These guys are coaches
We
in
do
the
that
Strong
coaching
Coach.
thing.
Yeah,
Yep.
we're all about coaching. That's all we ever do. So, Danny, why are you? I'm curious about why coaching matters.
For me, coaching, mentorship, it's been something that in my life I've always had, and is something that now that I work with coaches and see the whole big picture, it really isn't a lost art. It's something that we are not longer sharing like we used to, and a lot of it is because we don't have the elders to guide us and teach us. My experience. Coming to this country and seeking guidance, seeking support early on, I sought out that from coaches in sports. And yet it was the avenue was sports, but for me it was guidance and support in many areas of my life. And that's how the evolution of my journey has been through coaches. And it started early on with football. And they guided me to playing collegiate football. And when that journey transitioned into business, that's when I started seeking support and coaching from coaches in business. And you were one of those coaches that I sought out support from. And if it wasn't for those people in my life that shared their journey with me, it would have been a lot harder. And I'm not just talking about football. I'm not just talking about business. I'm talking about my life because they're able to help me understand what was happening in my life and support me in that journey and carry me on through whatever that journey is that was seeking to go through or experiences that I wanted to have in my life. So it's something that I've been very fortunate to have, and a lot of it I naturally leaned into it because I didn't have it. So to me, coaching is I'm a coach, and I'm a huge believer in what a coach can do in someone's lives. And for me, I would not be in the place where I am at supporting coaches if I didn't have that.
Yeah,
And
where do you think you'd be if you didn't have a coach?
um, just looking at people in my life and where their lives are at, I could have headed down the typical path that my family maybe followed in business, in education, and experiences in life. I'm one of the first college graduates in my family. Sports is I've taken it to one of the higher levels that we did in my family. I wouldn't have had any of that if I didn't have that support. And even the reality to create that was impossible if I didn't have a coach because you just don't know what you don't know, and coaches can guide you in that process and help you with your focus. And oftentimes is what it is for people is their focus is everywhere. And that's what a coach did for me early on. It allowed me to single focus on one task and take those actionable steps. It doesn't matter if it was a football game. It doesn't matter if it's business. It was just having that support of somebody who's done it.
Yeah,
Huge for me.
yeah.
Yeah.
What about you, Ben?
For me, it's having a coach is the most effective and the quickest way to reach your goals. Because for me, a year ago, I was an actor wannabe coach, doing a bunch of work that I was uninspired by, seeing all this fitness stuff that I so desperately wanted to be a part of, and I had no idea how to access it. And fast forward a year, I'm moved out of New York City. I coach people all across the world, and I'm speaking into this microphone next to Danny Rios and Mike Bledsoe. And those were all goals that I would have had no chance of achieving in such a short time if it weren't for having a coach to tell me what I had to do to get there.
Yeah, I've had that experience. I was talking to a guy today, and he was looking for some guidance, and he reminded me of me a lot, and we were talking about the cost of different programs, and he's like, "Oh, that sounds." I was telling him about this program, and he goes, "I'm afraid to ask the price tag. This is for training camp for the soul," and I told him, and he's like, "Ooh." I go, "Man, I told him the story of the first time I dropped major coin on something like that. I said that the first conference I went to where I was intentionally going to interact with people, network, and get information on how to grow my business, I dropped 7 grand, and I had to like pull from this bank account and then get creative with credit cards and all sorts of stuff, and drain my bank account to zero to go to this thing. Now, my risk tolerance is pretty high compared to most people, so I'm not saying go out and do this, folks, but this is how much it matters to me is to get that support and that guidance. And that when I did that, the first time I did it, I went at 7 grand, spent 7 days at this event, and then where I got a lot of guidance, and I came home and 10x'd our business revenue in the first month. And so just because of some insights I got, it was nothing groundbreaking. It's something that happens in business all the time, this type of business model in the coaching industry. And when we activated that program online, we got a ton of clients paying us monthly revenue. And it was a huge growth spurt that could only happen for that. And I told him, I said, hey, I'm not guaranteeing that if you do one of these programs that you're going to 10x your income in a month, but that's what's possible. That would have not been possible for me. I was stuck. I had hit the ceiling, and I had no idea how to make it better. And so going and seeking out that guidance, it was instrumental. My entire life changed in 2013. I'd had some fitness coaches and some health coaches and stuff like that, but I never invested in coaching outside of those two things. And then I went and got the business coaching, and just holy shit, um, I I started viewing the whole world differently. And where I was living at the time, I could not, I didn't have access to that level of coaching where I was living. There was definitely some business coaching going on, but it wasn't at the level I was desiring, because what had happened is I had traveled to these events and I had interacted with people who they travel the world. They have a world audience.
Yeah.
Not like, hey, I coach the local businesses down the street. There's nothing wrong with it. That's great. But I had already gotten ruined. I had been polluted with fine taste and coaching. And so not only did I drop, was it the first year, I dropped about 75K on personal development. I didn't even make that amount of money the year before. But because I kept going back, I kept on finding new ways to make money that were much easier, a lot less work than what I had done before. So not only did I have to travel to all these events, I'd say it was almost like once every month or two I was going to something new. But yeah, I was traveling for it. So I was constantly interacting with people who were not in my circle. So I had the exposure to high level coaches and exposure to people from other places. And that turned my brain on in a million different ways. It was really, really beneficial. So for me, I like coaching in community. I go, oh yeah, coaching is effective. It's the best way to get there. I have a coach where I sit down with him once a week, and he drills down in just me. And I pay an uncomfortable amount, because I know if I pay an uncomfortable amount, then I'll show up fully. I'm not going to flush that money down the toilet. So yeah, for me, it's about who am I spending time around? What's my atmosphere like? What's my environment like? And who am I listening to for guidance? And so that's been my experience of, when I had coaches earlier on, I didn't pay them, and I think that's why I didn't get as much out of it. The moment I started paying for coaching, which was back in 2013, that's when things picked up really quickly, because the level of commitment went up.
You were invested.
Yeah, I was invested in the process.
Shortly before joining the Strong Coach, I was a part of another mentorship program there was less structure, and it was $25 a month. And even though logically I knew, I should be making an effort to go to these meetings, I didn't care.
Yeah.
Then come do
it wasn't valuable.
Exactly. And then come do the
valuable.
Strong Coach, and because it cost exactly how much money I had in my savings account, I would have sat in a burning building if it meant making one of those calls.
Yeah.
Because of that level of investment.
Yeah. I hear that all the time. People go, that's all I have, or I'm gonna have to go find that money or something like that. And I go, okay. And I think we all do this. Is when
Mhm.
someone says that, we encourage them, and the reason is because we know what's on the other side. They have no idea. If they had an idea what was on the other side, it's because they already had traveled the path.
Mhm.
But because they've never done it before, they don't know what they don't know, as you had mentioned before, Danny. And when they get to the end, it's, oh, that's why it's like that.
And what is the price of having the life that you want? Because like you were talking to that guy, he's talking about training camp for the soul. Training camp for the soul is an investment, but he was in his like 20s, right?
24, yeah.
Yeah, he's got 80 more years to live. Is
The,
that
the earlier you do it, the better, man.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And it's like, can you put a price on if you're unhappy now, drastically improving your life for the next 80 years? Like, how can you put any kind of number on that?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that, and that actually brings me to like coaches who I hear this come out of coaches' mouths a lot of times, which is, well, first they're trying to work through like a money issue. They have a hard time charging a certain amount of money, and they're going, uh, I don't know if I can raise my rate from 25 bucks an hour to 40 bucks an hour. Oh my God, I'm freaking out. And then it flips to, I am worthy of $40 an hour, or I am worthy of, $60,000 a year, or $100,000, or $1 million a year. I'm worthy of that. And I always think it's funny because I'm like, no, that's bullshit too. Like, a human life is not worth anything,
Mhm.
and it's worth everything. So to start placing a numeric value on what your life is, I say throw that shit away. Throw away like the tying self worth to finances, because the one day your finances take a shit, which they do for all of us, we hit bumps in the road, and for those people, if you're tying your personal value to the amount of money that you're asking for or making, when things do go south at some point, your own self value is going to diminish as well. And coming up out of that hole gets tough,
Mhm.
because if you don't have any, if your value is tied to what you're charging, then yeah, it's a recipe for potential disaster in the future. You may get a short term benefit out of it. So what I encourage people to do is see if they can get to a place where they don't attach. I don't want to hear people say, well, I'm worth X amount of dollars. It's like, no, I want to charge that amount of dollars because we've mapped out, hey, this is the lifestyle I want to live. Okay, that requires this. So I want to work 20 days of the month. So how much do I need to make in a day? And we start working that backwards, and it has nothing to do with what you're worth. People are throwing numbers around all the time just because of how it feels.
Mhm.
And for me, I go, what do I desire? What's the lifestyle I desire? Okay, well, I know I need to make this much per day to live that lifestyle, and that means that my business needs to make this much money, and this means this and this and this. And next thing I know exactly what to charge clients. And a lot of times people ask me like, why do you charge what you charge? And I go, that's exactly why. And it's between getting a level of commitment from them, and simultaneously, what does it have to do to make it worth my time? If I'm not working, my life is so fucking cool that if you're gonna stop me from doing my really fucking cool shit,
Mhm.
it better pay well.
Damn
It
right.
better pay well. And so for me, it's like whatever you desire.
And the thing is too, if you're placing your value in money, you're literally placing your value in something that's imaginary.
Yep.
Because
Indefinite.
if you hold a
Yeah.
dollar bill in your hand, okay, you could say that's worth a dollar, but what is it that literal physical object worth? It's a piece of paper with some ink on it. It's only worth a dollar because enough people agree that it's worth a dollar. If
Yeah.
enough people said no, that's worth nothing, it would stop being worth anything.
Yeah, it's all made up. So
Exactly,
like
exactly. It was
the fact that people get hung up on the amount of something is I mean, I used to do it, and I now sit here and it's mind-boggling. But I used to operate from a place where I only need to make what I need, and I don't need much, and you know uh, I don't want to charge them because I'm afraid like it's gonna hurt them. A lot of people think that it may be painful for them to spend that amount of money. But most of your clients, for most coaches, most of their clients are making more money than they are, especially if they're in the health and fitness industry. I like working with business coaches who make more money than me. That fucking makes sense.
Yeah, you
They'll
can't
teach you that.
coach up.
Yeah. We're selecting up here. Yeah, I won't even go to a conference. Someone says, "Oh, it's this conference. It's $500." I'm like, pass. I don't attend anything under $2,000. So if it's not $2,000, then I just know the level of information that's going to be there and the type of person who's going to show up. It's low commitment people, and that which means that the message is going to be towards people who they're trying to they're spending the majority of time trying to sway them into you know into buying something that's of low value. And it's like I don't want to be in a low value room. I want to be in a high value room.
You want to be in the room of people who actually want to be there.
Yeah, and have been choosing that for a while.
Yeah.
If they figured out that game, you're not going to find Richard Branson at a $2,000 or $5,000 event. You're going to run him at a $50,000 event.
Yeah, you want to get yourself in that circle with people that you want to play at that level they're in. And oftentimes when choosing a coach, is one of the things that I recommend to coaches is look at people's lifestyles, look what they've created in their lives, because that's what they're going to teach you.
Yeah.
And so you see conferences where people are paying 10 grand to be in a room of a lot of people. That's not a bad room to be in. Everybody in there made that investment, and everybody in that room is already thinking differently, like we talked about. And yeah,
All right, we're talking about money. What's y'all's biggest investment in yourself as far as personal development, business development, whatever?
for me the biggest investment really was after I made my first investment in coaching. It started happening when I went to a live seminar that you did. I went to a couple before that, in 2017 and 2018. I've added up close to 30K in personal development and business development and coaching, and the return on investment has financially has been there already, and what it's done for my life is priceless. Like you said, it's the tools that I've gained from working with coaches and programs and experiences and mentorship is priceless. Has added so many tools to my belt that is going to keep going for the rest of my life.
Let's talk about the tools real quick because that's interesting. It's interesting. The tools that I've found fall into the category of I don't know what I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And so I didn't even know that tool was that valuable,
Mm-hmm.
right? So most people they buy the benefit, not the tool.
Mm-hmm.
So what are some tools that you came across that surprised you? You go, oh, this tool is something I can apply to every aspect of my life, or a tool to deal with certain situations. What are some of your let's start with the mind blowing tools. Like
Mm-hmm.
as you started adopting some of these tools, which one stands out as the thing that really got you?
Language.
Language.
Language is big. Once you understand very simple frameworks of language, and you practice them long enough, you process things differently in your head. You communicate differently. You start getting different results. And for me, is the foundation of my coaching and helping the people that we guide and support find accuracy through language.
There's something you said interesting to me the other day, which was your let's see. Oh, starting to lose it. It was along the lines of, oh, you process things differently now.
Mhm.
Like since I started doing the language work, I now process things differently.
Mhm.
Can you describe what that is?
Yeah. So for me, gave me a complete different framework on how to experience my life.
Yeah.
Is we go back to the whole relationship with money thing. Oftentimes, people tell me I don't want to worry about money. You could have $0 in your bank account. You could have $20 million in your bank account. You could still worry about money. And just understanding the framework of what language is creating for people there, and knowing that you have access to changing that and going about your entire life differently is an amazing tool. For me, I've had experiences 5 years into owning a gym where if something would have happened 5 years from now, shit would have hit the fan for me. Emotionally, it would have rocked me. I go through it now and I process it much different. Oftentimes in the past, it would take me to the worst case scenario, and it would eliminate all possibilities of what can be created. Once I started focusing on the language piece of it, I process things in the world of possibilities. Anything that happens, I automatically start focusing on what can I do, and just that simple framework. And there's a lot.
Can you go in more detail about
Yeah,
that framework?
yeah. So
This is like one of 100.
yeah, it's one of 100, and yet it's so simple. Most people are focusing on what they don't want. They're focusing on that worst case scenario, and when we're focusing on that, that's all you can create. You eliminate all possibilities of anything else happening.
Yeah, wherever your attention goes,
Mm-hmm.
let's say where your attention goes, energy flows. It's hippy dippy, but wherever your attention is at, that's why it's getting created, is
Mm-hmm.
because you're putting so much attention on it, and so subconsciously you're talking your body into that happening.
Mm-hmm.
So if that's what's happening for you, then it starts screwing you up.
Yeah. For me, I've personally lost weight since I've started doing this kind of work, and none of it has been. I haven't changed my external world much. My internal world has changed. I am way more relaxed. The world that I create for myself is just works for me better.
Yeah.
All around.
And it's the language is even in that phrase that you get so often from coaches is, I don't want to worry about money. Okay, what do you want to worry about? Do you want to worry about anything? So
Yeah.
like even speaking worry into that is a language problem. So instead not exactly sure off the top of my head what that negation would translate to, but translating that to something where it's, well, what do you want as opposed to what don't you want?
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So what's one that's blown your mind? A tool you've used, Ben, that's been really beneficial. I know language is big for you too, but if you've got something else.
Yeah, it's mantras. Mantras have been huge for me, which a mantra is a short, specific I am statement. Like one I'm working on now that I'm having a lot of fun with since training camp for the soul is I celebrate everything. And what that does is when I like how you say in the Strong Coach module is that when you say the mantra and you associate that mantra with a goal, you become the person who does that thing. You become the person who has already achieved the goal, because ultimately you have to be, before you achieve the goal, you have to be the person who can even do it.
Yeah, and I'll point out that it's not about getting the satisfaction of having it completed. I think some people get hung up on that. They go, "Well, I don't want to act like I already did it because that would be a lie, and that would be, if I feel like I did it, then I won't do it." But what we're talking about is putting yourself in process of becoming that person. So the attention is on the process, not the result. You set the result out here, and then you identify that the process is to become this person, to shift your identity into being the type of person who accomplishes the goal. And then all the attention goes into that identity, the process of shifting the identity. And then one day you wake up and you go, "Oh fuck. I passed my goal last month. I barely noticed. I've been having so much fun." You had that experience?
Oh yeah, I've lived my perfect day a couple times and I've never realized it until the day's over.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh shit, check that out. I just did that. Cool. What can I do next? What can I add to this?" So this was like a perfect goal that was maybe 5 or 10 year goal of a perfect day, and if I achieved it in 6 months, I could be on the moon in 10 years. Like what level of possibility can I take my vision to once I've established the identity of someone who can accomplish those unreasonable goals?
For me, two mantras that were powerful from the Strong Coach program. Why I'm sitting here right now, I wrote down there that I have a global impact and I collaborate with others. I simply wrote that down. Had really no clue what that meant. It just felt good at the time. And when I saw opportunities it felt good. Literally
Like,
felt
fuck
good.
it.
Like,
Fuck it. Let's have a global
let's just
impact.
have a global impact.
Dude, you got to be careful. You got to be careful with this shit.
Yeah.
Because I've done the same thing. I do that. And I'm like, yeah, I can do that thing, and I've got to shift my identity to be the kind of person that does the thing. And it's no small shift. There's something wrong with us.
Yeah.
Yeah, like either like we forget that the grander the shift that we're gonna experience, the more painful the process will be, because you have to go further.
Mm-hmm.
So it's more about like it's like okay, I'm gonna like do this. I'm gonna shift my identity. I gotta shed the old thing, which is painful,
Mm-hmm.
and then for me, I do this really grand thing, and then I get 2 or 3 days into it, I go, oh shit, I'm gonna be here for a while. This is
Maybe a lifetime.
and this is and this is
Yeah.
what I asked for.
Yeah.
And this is what I asked for. I reminded myself of that today. I'm like, I asked for this.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
asked for this. Got a little chuckle out of it. And you know what? Because honestly, I'd be bored otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
I'd be completely bored out of my mind if I wasn't pushing that. I think I'll be pushing the identity envelope. Yeah, to the very end.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what was your 2 mantras? What was it?
Oh, I have a global
Yeah,
impact, and I
yeah.
collaborate with others.
Yeah. So what happened?
I was going through the Strong Coach program, and at that time, Mike was everybody's mentor. Pretty cool experience. In a conversation with him, I was really excited and fired up about the program, and I asked you that I went to support, and you asked me how, and I told you because I have a global impact and I collaborate with others. I told you that straight out, and that supported me. It allowed me to connect the dots. Where if I support your mission, I can have a global impact, and I'll collaborate with others. And you just don't know how he's gonna show up. And that mantra at the time, it wasn't the most impactful, yet it shifted everything in my life. Everything in my life. So you just don't know what those statements and identities that you're creating for yourself can lead to. And it's very powerful to be intentional with it. And so the better you can apply language, go take it back to language, the more you know how to create these tools to be simple for your brain to follow and for you to follow, the easier it gets. And it's a very simple tool, very, very simple tool. And it blew my mind going through it and applying those mantras in my life.
Let's talk about communication as a coach. How has your Ben? We'll start with you. How has your communication shifted over time?
It's shifted from having to feeling like I have to have all the answers, like coming at coaching from a purely a teaching perspective of, oh, you have a problem? Well, do this. Bye. And that was it. And now my coaching is all about I'm here. I'm here to be present, and I'm gonna ask the questions. I'm gonna ask like that question where you feel everything tighten up, and like that's the one that's going to bring the answers out of you. So the communication between me and my clients has gone from me disseminating information to me pulling the answers out of them and showing them how to do it themselves. So that they're the ones. I even had a client call me out on this. He was like, "Hey, wait a minute. I'm doing all the work here. You're just asking me questions." I was like, "Yeah, that's what it is now."
That's my job.
Exactly. That's what like if you were to take coaching down to like a really base simple level, it'd be asking questions.
Yeah.
And being able to have that kind of communication with your clients is so much more powerful, because this is in how to win friends and influence people. The best way to get someone to do what you want is to make them think it's their idea.
Yeah.
And when you coach someone like that, they're the ones coming up with all the ideas.
Are you surprised, or do you know where they're going most of the time?
Most of the time I know where they're going.
Yeah. How often do you get surprised?
I'd say 1 out of 5 times I'm
5?
surprised.
Yeah.
It is often, it's like they say a perfect mantra and it's like, oh shit, that was it. How do I get them to say that? Because I know that like that's the one, and I'd say 95% of the time I'm dead on with that. And it's much more powerful when I can get them to say it first instead of me feeding it to them.
Yeah. I find the higher level the coaching, the more surprised I am. So if I'm coaching somebody on some pretty basic shit, I'm like, oh, I know where they're going with this, or if they're new. But then when I get someone in like the training camp for the soul environment, I'm like 50-50. Like I know what they're gonna get out of this. But then the other half the time I'm going, oh shit, I didn't even know that was coming up. And yeah, leading people through their own process of discovery for me is way more satisfying than just telling them what to do. And I had a huge insight around this years ago, and I had all four of my walls in my office painted chalkboard black. So I had all this chalk in there, and I wrote the most like right in front of my desk. I wrote the word discovery, and I wrote it's the most important thing for people to have for themselves. And I was thinking about that in regard to leadership and coaching, and if you're a coach, you're a leader.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're leading people. So um, that's another thing I like to look at coaching through that lens. Is that's why I think a lot of coaches don't think of themselves as leaders, and that's one reason that they're not doing as well as they'd like. Once they make that shift of like I am a leader, then they start taking on that's an identity.
Mm-hmm.
They start taking on a bigger identity and taking more responsibility for what's happening in their space and creating, which in then turn creates sense of safety for clients in which they can then go and explore. Because most people are not going to explore where they have fear. So create safety, then that safety, and this all happens in communication,
Mm-hmm.
creating safety for them, and they feel safe. I can explore, and asking a lot of questions and being receptive and actually listening to people is a great way to make them feel safe because most people walk around this world never feeling as though they'd been listened to. I've had people who open up to me about things in the first 5 minutes of meeting me who then step back and go, holy shit, I've never shared that with anyone. And look at me like I'm a wizard or something. And I always got this shit eating grin on my face. And I, this happened just last week at training camp. I was in a conversation with one of our clients, and he reflected back to me. He goes, "Oh, you do that a lot." I go, "Do what?" He goes, "You ask questions and then you just stay silent." And I just keep going and going and going and going. You know, he's been through a couple of our programs, went to the summit, and it just dawned on him. He goes, we were playing the curiosity game
Yeah.
and live, which is always different. And he noticed that I only asked a few questions, and I would allow silence to exist there, so he'd just keep divulging more and more and more. And he was like, he got all. He was like, okay. I was like, try that when you go home when you're coaching.
Mm-hmm.
Shut your mouth a little more.
It's like the level 2 of the curiosity game is the silent game of when it stops and you can just like sit there and look at them
Yeah.
and wait.
Yeah. Well, if we want to talk about this style of communication where you're being curious, you're just asking, being present, and asking the next obvious question that comes up and not trying to think of what the next question that is that come up. The things following your curiosity, it's a practice. It's an amazing practice. It's my number that's like curiosity is my guide. That's one of my number one phrases that I use for myself. And it's a good reminder when I get into hairy situations. Like, oh, my curiosity got me here. But my curiosity usually takes me to amazing places. People are like, how does all this stuff happen to you? And I go, I'm being curious. Like, why did you do that? I was like, well, I was just curious what would happen if I did that. And sometimes, it's a trip to the ER, but most of the time, most of the time, it's the most epic adventure I've ever had. And when I tell the story, people go, that can't be real. I'm like, well, you can, talk to this person, they were there. So I don't know. I went off on the curiosity. Curiosity came up, and I like so excited about it.
Yes.
So excited about curiosity.
Well, and it can be so powerful.
Oh yeah.
Just like in the way you talk to someone. Because I had an hour-long coaching call with someone, and I set the intention of I'm going to see how long I can play the curiosity game with her.
Mm-hmm.
I went for 52 minutes and 38 seconds. And I stopped because she was hysterically crying because we went that deep. I was like, okay, I'm gonna give her some nurturing and love and drop some positivity on her. But we got there, because of the curiosity game of like, oh, tell me about that, tell me about that, tell me about that, and that is how we Like that's how you get that deep with your
So
clients.
I want to point this out, is on the flip side, the way most people are communicating, because people may be confused at this point. The way most people are communicating is they ask a question, the person starts answering, and then they start thinking about the next thing they're going to say. And the curiosity game is played in a way in which you're not allowed to comment or acknowledge the other person for anything they're saying. You can only ask them the next question. So it puts you in a funny spot. I recommend practicing it with somebody where they know it's being played in the beginning, and then over time it simply integrates into how you are coaching. And for me, it's integrated into just my life. Dating with the curiosity game, girls are like, "Oh man, I never opened up to anyone like this before. I feel so connected."
Well,
I'm like, yeah, my first time too.
I've got a buddy who's actually he said he's been making the intention as he's dating to play the curiosity game, like in text messages on dates, and until she asks him a question. And he said that there's one girl who he's been playing with her for a week. She
Yeah.
hasn't asked him a single
Wow.
question yet.
Yeah, yeah.
For,
I'm gonna stay away from the stories on this one. They might emerge naturally in shows to come.
Who knows?
Who knows? We'll see. Some things are up in the air. You don't want to. I mean, she might watch.
You're not watching this, are you? No. For me, communication and what I bring to it and what it's done for me is it helps me find accuracy and where my focus should be. In playing that curiosity game, you can find yourself a rabbit hole and just dive deep into it. And oftentimes, what it is for a lot of people that I support, their focus is off where they need to be, and just with communication, just asking questions, we're able to find some solid work from there, and being able to grasp reality and really what is happening through simple language tools and asking questions is a tool that for me in my personal life helps me out, and it's also good in dating. So it's very powerful for coaches that come into a lot of coaches in the fitness industry that we talk to only have spent time in learning movement and teaching movement, and
Like
that
movement and program design.
movement and program design. And when they hop on the phone and we take them through a process where we're finding accuracy, and we get off the call and we have a 10-year vision, what you're going to do in 3 years, in 1 year. It all came from them. It all came from asking questions. It all came about from being curious and finding accuracy. Powerful stuff.
Yeah.
Even just writing it down, the simple act of writing it down. What do you want? Write it down.
Mhm.
And then it's got a physical existence, and you can actually see it, and then say it out loud and check in with how you feel saying that out loud. Like I remember goal setting with you when I was going through the program, and like saying like was something like 10 years from now I live in a mountain house in Colorado, and feeling the chills
Mhm.
go all the way up my spine, and that like feeling of lightness and excitement in my head. And like I didn't know that I could do that. I
Mhm.
didn't know that was a thing you could do, and I had no idea how powerful it was. And that's such a simple thing that then if you know how to do that, you bring it to your clients, and their head just explodes. Doesn't just explode, it does explode. Soft talk acknowledged.
Yeah.
The thing about going back to the curiosity game is it's really about getting into your client's world. And what I find with the trouble with most coaches and how I used to be was I was so engrossed in my own world that I couldn't connect with my clients. They never felt like I was listening to them because I was so focused on myself. And so getting in the curiosity game where you're leaving out acknowledgement or trying to add to the conversation at all, you're only asking questions. It's transformative for the coach who does it because it gets yourself out of the way, allows you to really connect with the client, really know what they need next. Like most coaches, like, how am I going to know? I imagine that there are certain coaches out there who are afraid that they're not going to be able to help their clients. And as long as they're not asking good questions, I don't care how many certifications you have, you're not going to help your clients. But if you know how to ask good questions, like you were saying before, clients will help themselves a lot of times. The biggest things that are keeping them from reaching their goals, they know they're not supposed to be eating those donuts, you know, but they do it anyway. There's something else that's causing that, and until we get to that, all the squats and bench press are only going to take us so far.
It's probably mommy issues.
Uh, it,
That's why they're eating
Mommy
donuts. Mommy
issues.
issues. That was mine. Found that out.
and
You had mommy issues.
I had mommy issues with
Yeah.
food.
Yeah. Well, it happens, man.
the curiosity game is something that supports coaches a lot in the sales process too. Oftentimes, going back to understanding what the client needs, a lot of coaches struggle in connecting their services to the pain point that that client has.
Yeah.
And sometimes they'll ask, and it's very superficial. It's, oh, that person wants to lose weight. Yes, that's part of it. How it shows up on the
No, she
outside.
doesn't want to lose weight. She doesn't want her husband to leave her.
Yeah, that's
Yes.
what it comes down to. And when you're able to get deep inside the rabbit hole enough to find out where the client's mind's at, it does a lot of things for you. The first one that's going to do for you is going to allow you to give your services and connect it to something that actually means something to them. That's the first one. The curiosity game is going to tell you how your client speaks. And how that client speaks is going to be very similar to how all your other clients speak. So it's going to help you in marketing, and it's going to allow you to create services for your clients. You're going to understand what your clients need, what they're saying, and you could create new offers, new services for your clients. It's very powerful to be curious in business, and it helps. It has helped me in everything that I do, not just coaching, everything that I do.
Yeah, the that's an interesting point is if you're listening to your clients and you're creating offers that are specific to them, what they're asking for, and that impacts your marketing because your offer is part of your marketing. Your offering is using some business talk here, but your offering is it's your package. It's what you're selling. And the issue is most coaches are selling whatever the fuck whatever gym they were at before was selling, and they're looking down the guy or the girl down the road, and it's like, oh, what's their package? I'll do something a little bit cheaper, or maybe a little bit different, and this and that. But the best way to differentiate yourself in this crowded market is to listen to your clients, find your favorite clients, and then gear all your marketing towards those people. It's counterintuitive because people have a scarcity mindset and for some reason think that there aren't 7 billion people on the planet. And what you do is you get to work with your favorite clients. You market to those people, and because the more specific you get, the more universal the message becomes. And that's another counterintuitive concept, but when you go into the application of that concept, it it reveals itself as true. You go, oh wow, okay, this really works. So the best way, a lot of times people ask, how can I differentiate myself in this crowded coaching market? Is yeah, really connect with your clients, be authentic, connect vulnerably, have really good communication, and then if you're doing that, here's the thing: is 1% of the coaches are doing that. So all you got to do is that, and now you're going to skyrocket. When I travel around and I've interviewed so many high level coaches, one thing I find from them is they're attracting a certain type of client and they are 100% themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like Louis Simmons at Westside Barbell. That dude attracted prisoners for a while, like, but you walk in that gym and that's like the type of person that was going to do that type of training with him. And then you look at Zach Evanesh, who coaches high school wrestlers in strength and conditioning, and he really cares about the kids and he really listens to them, and he's all in their entire life and all that kind of stuff. And so he attracts the right crowd. He attracts those people. But you look at different coaches that are out there. Zach Evanesh is probably as a coach has got more, I guess, more flow than St. Louis.
Mm-hmm.
The flow at Westside is, it drips in and drips out, and good thing he invented some things that make a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't think he's making any money off the gym. He's making or off coaching. He's making money off of The glue.
Reverse hyper.
Reverse hyper. Wow. Wow.
The one thing we use.
The one thing I love that machine.
Do you even lift, bro?
I know that's the problem. I picked up a stone and a kettlebell today. You saw me.
We
do
got
it.
photos.
We have
We got photos.
photographic
It happened.
evidence.
Shirt was off and everything.
You can find on my Instagram if you're. Make sure you're subscribed.
Double tap.
Yeah, double tap
Give 'em
that
some
shit.
love.
Give me that heart, baby. Yeah.
The thing too that's important about not only dialing in your marketing to reach a specific kind of client is that client is also going to be the kind of client you enjoy training. Because if you really enjoy training football players and a stay-at-home mom comes in and wants an intro session, she's totally worthy of being your client, but you're probably not going to enjoy training her as much because she's not a football player. So you want to dial your marketing in so that it's all of the football players coming to you as opposed to the stay-at-home moms.
Yeah. All right, so we'll get down to some nuts and bolts. What do you tell people who are looking for a coach? If someone's looking for a coach, what should they do?
Find a coach that has a coach.
Mm.
Because you don't
That's a good sign. A coach all lone wolfing it. That's
because there's an element where like that coach then is unconsciously putting out the energy that like I don't need a coach. I've made it, and nobody's made it. I've got a coach. Danny's got a coach. You've got a coach. Your coach probably has a coach. So like it.
Yeah, I know the coach. I know the line.
Yeah.
Like I know his coaches, and I know that guy, what his circle is. Like there's a lineage in which I'm familiar.
Because you can even take that back to an evolutionary standpoint of the animals that didn't grow and change. They're not around anymore. Like that's why when you watch a nature documentary, like this animal hasn't changed since the dinosaurs, because every animal that didn't change since the dinosaurs isn't around. They all died.
Yeah.
So if you're not growing and evolving, then you're not gonna be around 5 to 10 years from now.
Yeah.
So don't hire any dinosaurs as coaches.
No dinosaurs, none whatsoever. Yeah. What about you, Danny?
For me, and looking to hire a coach, and what I advise coaches to do is, we go back to the theme of the hero's journey. And what I recommend coaches to do is to find coaches that have been through that path that you're seeking to go through. So if you want to build a 6-figure business, find a coach that has done that. 7-figure business, find a coach that has done that. Because they've been through the journey, they're going to see the bigger picture. And somebody that can spot the bigger picture can better support you where you're at and point you to the step that you need to go. So for me is understanding that coach's lifestyle, what they've created, where they're going to, because ultimately you're going to take a lot of information that you're going to apply to your life. So when you're looking to hire a coach, look that their values are in alignment with you. And when you're looking for a coach, ask those questions. Ask those questions how that coach can support you, and it should make sense for your life. They should be able to show you what the next step is and paint a clear picture of the whole thing. That's how I look for a coach. That's what I recommend for coaches to do when hiring a coach.
Yeah, the mission piece is interesting because my personal mission is in alignment with my coach's personal mission, and it's like we're getting in there together to do the work. He knows by helping me, he's going towards the same goal. And when I go to once a quarter, he has a gathering, and I go and interact with his other clients. There might be 8 of us in the room, and I sometimes wonder, I'm like, how is that guy with me? Like, we're so different. Like one guy is he's like a top 40 pop artist, lives in New York, and had like this YouTube video thing blow up, and I'm like, I'm running my coaching business, and I was like, what do we have in common? And then by halfway through the day, when I go, oh, we're all doing the same work. I love this. And then choosing a coach that has the lifestyle you want, or something close to it. I wouldn't say exactly all the time, but yeah, I had a client recently who realized that he had made a major life decision of getting married to somebody based on what his single uncle of 40 years old told him. Like he's never been married, single uncle was giving him marriage advice, and he took it, and then realized that he had made a series of decisions that led to a lot of pain and suffering based off of that. It's like I hear people all the time like, I'm not telling you not to listen to your parents, but sometimes when your parents are giving you career advice, or a professor at a school is giving you career advice who's never had anything outside of academia, or you're listening to your boss giving you career advice, look at them as your boss. Do you want that fucking job? Look at his life. What's it like at home? Don't listen to that person. Are your parents, are they truly happy and successful and living the type of life you want? It's good to listen to them for advice. I'm not saying not to, but I think that most parents are giving very dangerous advice in regard to career right now because they don't understand the times are changing very fast. Technology's shifting so fast, and formal education is less and less valuable by the minute because the we have access to all information all the time. You don't have to. They used to lock the books up in a library at the university, and that's why you had to go to the university.
Hmm.
And so that's just not true anymore. So a major component of what made universities so valuable doesn't even exist anymore. And so what's keeping people in that system is tradition.
Hmm.
And there's this core belief that's been passed down from generation to generation. And it hasn't been that long. It's been the last 20 years. Our parents needed to go to university if they were to have the type of knowledge you might need to get the job you wanted to get. But I have friends in their mid 20s that are millionaires and have no degree and basically did a bunch of online programs to learn how to do sales and marketing and run their business. And they hired mentors left and right.
Hmm.
And they climbed the ladder in, 2, 3 years. Now they're running 7-figure coaching businesses and things like that because they figured the game out and started playing it instead of taking advice from people who they shouldn't be listening to.
Hmm.
So yeah, find that mentor, find that coach who is living the lifestyle or is at least capable of living the lifestyle that you would want to live,
Hmm.
and go find out from them. And there's usually a much more direct line there than what people think. Uh, the way I used to approach it was, oh, this is what I want. This is how much money I'm going to have to make. How do I make that kind of money? And I just would focus on how much money I needed to make. It's like, and then I one day realized, oh, I got to start making moves towards what I want, regardless of what's happening with the money. And when I started seeing these as separate things of like, oh, I got to make money, but I started making moves in that direction, and all of a sudden the money started showing up. I go, oh, this all works together. You're not going to wait for one to come over the other. You have to make the move into being that person who is doing that thing, because if you're not, the money won't show up.
Yeah, a lot of people make a lot of these financial goals and other things connected to that very conditional. So, for example, I was on a call with a coach who he wanted to receive a large amount of money, and his because was because he wants to support the people he loves. And then I asked him, "Can you support people that you love now without that money in your bank account?" It's like, "Oh, I can do that." And so what we move the conversation to is you can start being that person now. So when that money that you do desire is there, you can already support the people that you love. And oftentimes is what happens. People make these financial goals conditional, and it removes access to what they could have if the money's there or not. And that's just one piece. But people make goals like that, personal goals. They make them conditional, and they don't have to be that way. The biggest advice I can give a coach when going through this process themselves, in creating these goals, these financial goals, it's always put your life first and see what you want to experience, see what you want to feel, see what you want to create in your life. Money's not going to be that is not going to give you that satisfaction. It's you're digging in a hole that eventually you go down. We'll go back to that rabbit hole. You dive deep enough. It's not about the money, and we're gonna go back to that relationship with money, and it's endless opportunity always for people to dive deep into that because money's infinite and the possibilities are infinite. So yeah, negation acknowledged. Don't make your goals conditional based on how much money you have in the bank account, on how you show up in life. That does not change how you show up in life. It doesn't show up who you are as a person. Your contribution to the world is not tied to a bank account at all.
Yeah.
And
Wise words. Go
in the
ahead.
spirit of specificity, if your goal is around money and you don't make any goals around the lifestyle you want, great, you're a millionaire, you still live in your mom's basement. Are you happy?
Yeah.
So you have this money, but you've not set any kind of goal about what you're going to do with it.
Yeah,
So
I was just talking to somebody who made, they're like, man, I make good money and but I'm not happy. And it's like, oh yeah, what have you spent money on? It's like, it's bullshit. It's like fast cars and motorcycles, and trust me, nothing wrong with that. I love that shit. I love getting an M3 and hitting that shit hard. But it's like, why are you doing it?
Mhm.
Because if you don't have any identity goals of who you're becoming in the future, yeah, you'll get that money, you'll buy some toys, and then you'll wonder why you're sad instead of, moving somewhere with your life. Yeah, I like what you said, that don't make money conditional to living the life and being the person you want to be. People are always waiting
Mm-hmm.
for that, and it's sad because it's people tend to tie those things together. And one of the reasons we talk about money, like, hey, if you don't like the fact that we're talking about money, you may not want to tune into the show ever again, because it'll probably come up quite often, because money plays a role in our life every single day. There's money coming in, there's money going out constantly. It impacts everything. Most people's minds are on that when making decisions. It's, we could shy away from the subject because it's uncomfortable, but we're not uncomfortable with it, so we're fine with it.
we are at peace
We're at
with our
peace with
money.
it.
Well,
Yeah.
Yeah, so
And that
it
took a lot of work itself.
That's okay. It took a lot of fucking work.
Yeah.
It took a lot of work, like, just real quick, what kind of work did you have to do around it?
For me, a lot of it was guilt and shame early on, and guilt and shame of having the money. I've created a lot of mantras to support me in that process. I remember one early on is I'm a money magnet. And so I would find, and it's funny, around this time that I was doing it, I was finding a lot of money on the ground. And I know because I would say it out loud. I would find money. I'm a money magnet, and really own it and step into it. It was scary. Yeah, that's one of the big one that comes to mind for me.
Yeah. What
Mhm.
about you, Ben?
For me, it was being in scarcity and agonizing over every single purchase. And I've found out in some of journaling exercises that I've been doing that it came from buying a deck of Pokemon cards when I was little, and it cost $10, and I got admonished like, how could you spend $10 on that? People slave away for $10.
Right.
And that then like conditioned me to agonize over every single purchase.
Mm.
And then I went broke to join the Strong Coach and ripped that Band-Aid off. And it's been way easier since.
Yeah.
And then I was able to drop like almost twice that on Training Camp for the Soul and be totally fine with it.
Yeah. I went broke starting the Strong Coach, so I we all come from the same place. I got my bank account under $100. Was it about a year and a half ago? And I did it because I was dedicated to only acting out of inspiration. I wasn't feeling inspired to work. And first time I took a break in like 20 years, folks. And I decided, I'm willing to take off the entire year of 2018. And I didn't even worry about, I didn't plan out the financial side of it all. Just like, let's see what happens. Like, roll the dice. Like I said at the beginning of the show, my risk tolerance is high. I don't expect people to do the same thing. But the experiment was watching the bank account dwindle and dwindle and dwindle and dwindle. And me, as it got smaller, feeling okay with it. And I was curious because I was like, oh, normally if this would have happened to me a few years ago, I would have freaked out. I would have been stressed. I would have made it mean that I wasn't worth anything. My own personal value would be taking a hit. I wouldn't be able to look at my bank account. It would hurt. But I would go in and look at it every day. And I go, and it got under $100. And I go, oh, okay. And I didn't know how I was going to buy groceries that week. And the next day, I know not everyone has this thing going for them, but because I have a podcast, this company sent me a bunch of food for free. But you never know how it shows up,
Mhm.
But that's how it showed up for me. It's like, oh, I could eat. And then the next day, I had put some stuff out to sell online. I think I moved some strong coach spots or something. I was just launching the strong coach, and some like a few $1,000 rolled in. I go, oh, okay. Well, I can make all my payments now this month, and cool. Glad I can make rent and eat food and pump gas. But it took years to get to that point where like the amount of money didn't impact me. So right now, the where I'm at is a year and a half later, is seeing where my discomfort is when the money gets to be too much.
Mhm.
And so, oh, what's the amount of money that I can manage without without feeling like I'm not worth having that amount of money or something like that. So, like, where's that ceiling?
Mhm.
So we're gonna blast through that and
Let's
have a
do
good
it.
time. We're gonna have a
Yes.
good time. All right, we'll wrap it up there. We'll wrap it up there. I have more notes, but I'm gonna save it for a future show. That's what these conversations are great because it just keeps on generating more and more really cool conversations. So, if you're wondering, if you're a coach, you want to build your six-figure coaching business, go over to strongcoachpodcast.com and you can get a free three-step coaching business tune-up. So go to strongcoachpodcast.com. You can get that tune-up there. You can click the Become a Strong Coach button. It's going to be really obvious. It's going to be red and it's going to say Become a Strong Coach. You click the button and then you get on a phone call. You can get on a phone call with Mr. Danny Rios sitting right next to me, and you spend like a half hour, maybe.
We go a
We'll
little
see.
deeper. It's we book you for an hour, and we're gonna give you a lot of value.
Yeah. So this is you're coaching them on this call.
I'm coaching them on this call.
Yeah. A lot of people jump on this call and leave and in one call have enough answers to make a major shift in their business or their life.
We've had people open up gyms from this phone call. We've had today's phone call. We created an offer for a coach to hit his financial goals with 20 clients. It was a 10-year goal that we brought down to 6 months by just finding more accuracy, and the possibilities are endless. Yeah, that's what we can do on the phone call. We could do some major stuff for you in your life in that call.
Yeah, and that's free. So, strongcoachpodcast.com, get your three-step coaching business tune-up. Click that Become a Strong Coach button, and you'll start your path with us. Come hang out with us. By the way, if you're following us on Instagram at the Strong Coach, you'll notice that there's a lot of us. There's a lot of strong coaches out there, and we're having a good time. So if you want to come join the good time, yeah, go click that button. Ben, where do we find you? You on IG? What social media platforms? Is that the one you like the most?
Yes, Instagram is the one I like the most. It's built_by_Ben, built by Ben. And I also have a website, builtbybenfitness.com. And I am also the lead coach for the Strong Coach. So when you get your mind blown, I'm going to talk right into this camera. When you get your mind blown by Mr. Danny Rios over here, you'll be on the group calls with me, and we'll create some beautiful things.
Yes. Danny, where do people see you? Where do people stalk you? Where do the women come DMing you with all sorts of perverse graphics?
My favorite spot where people to bug me is strongcoach.com because then I could talk to you directly. So get on there, and that's where I can spend time with you and support you. Instagram, just look up Daniel Rios. I'll pop up, and you could reach out to me via there and ask me questions. I love to support people directly.
I'm going to correct you on one thing.
Mhm.
I didn't tell you before the show, but we want you to go to strongcoachpodcast.com. And the reason is because we want to know where people are coming from. So if you're listening to the show, go there so we know you came from there. Because it's a thing you do in business. You track where your people are coming to your website from.
Mm-hmm.
So anyways, throwing that out there.
The strongcoachpodcast.com.
Yeah.
That's
now
what,
you can use that in your business.
that's where I want to talk to you.
Yeah. Yeah. And follow us over at The Strong Coach on Instagram, doing all sorts of cool stuff. And you can find me personally at Mike_Bledsoe on Instagram. And yeah, talk to you later.